Welcome back to the table for the Friday, September 5, 2025 installment of Market Plus. Chris Robinson, the former center for the Colgate football team. You get excited this time of year, don't you?
I do, yeah.
You had a hard time finding a place to stay because of the Iowa State football game. Yeah. That had to get you excited too.
It did. I walked in last night and they were already tailgating. It was like, it's too bad I have to go to sleep, go to work tomorrow.
We're going to talk about tailgating because that ties into something at the end here when it comes to commodities and livestock. That's what I call a tease, but we're going to start with China, Chris. Let's go Bradley in Nebraska. He wants to know, it appears that China has exited the soybean market entirely. Can the USA sell enough export beans to other countries to make up the difference and still come within about 100 million bushels of USDA soybean export projection?
Okay, not to get too far inside baseball, but the exports have been actually pretty good. If memory serves me, we're running 2 million metric tons ahead of where we were this time last year, and that's without China. And China is gone. So I don't know exactly, maybe we'll know in a year or two exactly who's buying these beans and how it's getting done. But the rest of the world likes to buy soybeans when they're at the bottom of a trading range, a dollar trading range, and they're at one-year lows. So that, I think, has helped our exports. I'm a big believer that once this problem, in quotations, gets solved, at the end of the day, they still have 1 billion people they have to feed. They have 300 million hogs they have to feed. They feed it soybean meal. They will be back. And then I think you'll see a pretty good snapback. But can we survive in the meantime? You know, it's nice to see us. We finished around 1040, 1050. That's a lot better than being down at 970. So I'm a glass half full person. I'm not worried about what happens if beans go to $12. I'm worried about if they go to $8. So defend. If you're going to store it, defend. Every 50 cents is worth defending, in my opinion.
All right, well, I think the problem you mean is policy related. So let's do a policy question if we could. Chris, this is Joel in Oklahoma. He wants to know, how much would a good old bipartisan farm bill help the markets? I mean, is it going to help a little, a lot, not much?
I don't know. I think the biggest thing is the supply and demand is what's really gumming up the works right now. At the end of the day, it would be nice to have a farm bill, absolutely, positively. The other thing would be nice if his interest rates come down. We started to see a little glimmer of that this week with what happened today in the bond market. Those two things together. But at the end of the day, what drives prices is supply and demand. And this year, the farmers got out over their skis. I mean, we produced too much corn, close to, I don't care what the number is, whatever yield you use with the amount of acres that we planted. If it's, when the last USDA report, they were 188.8, which is 16.7. That's, and we usually grow 15 billion bushels. That's the real problem. So I would love to see something where they would say, you know what, we already take 1/3 of the crop for ethanol, which they do, thank goodness. Let's see if we can bump that up. That would be something that would really help a lot of farmers.
Well, California has said E15 is something that could be a possibility. However, there's a push in 3 or 4 states to not have ethanol at all in their states. So how realistic is ethanol as a solution here?
I think it's the driver. What happens with crude oil, too? If crude oil is above $70 a barrel, $80 a barrel, then that math problem starts working better and better. But, today we hit a 3-month low. The market's pricing in. OPEC's going to have a meeting next week. They're probably going to increase production. So that's the big what if. I think if the crude oil prices stay north of 70, 75, that makes it more attractive. But again, you and I have been waiting for a long, long time for them to say, we're going to go from 5 billion bushels out of the 15 to 20, something like that. That would be amazing.
Every bit helps, right?
Yeah, actually, that would be crazy, 5 to 20, but like 5 to 7, 5 to 10, that would really, really help, because that's the problem. You get rid of the supply and, you're better off.
Let's talk about supply. Eric L., his question for you, Chris, is one that has a huge amount of supply. Do you see the wheat market gaining any strength in Q4? The
problem with wheat is it's a weed, and somewhere around the world, somebody's always harvesting wheat. And I think a lot of people, I'm old enough to remember when it was, the U.S. really, really mattered. Now, every time you turn around, and it's interesting, Russia's crop always gets bigger. They're always like, oh, we miscounted a little bit. So The problem is the world is awash in wheat. I think the only cure for that is going to be probably you'll see next year or possibly this year, farmers are going to be like, you know what, I'm not going to plant if it's not going to work.
Well, okay, you just got done saying we had too much corn.
Yeah.
So the wheat marginal acres to corn acres doesn't sound like a good idea. Is it going to go to soybeans? Is it going to go to cotton? What's it going to go to in the United States?
It's going to stay with corn.
So we're going to be back in this situation
Yeah.
again next year?
Yeah, it's a possibility. Now, we'll have to see. I mean, but if we plant the same amount of acres that we planted last year, I mean, the margins are there. So I can't wait to see what happens at the end of the year when we get the January report. That's going to be a big, because if there's a big carryout of corn, farmers are going to have to make the decision: are we going to plant? And it's kind of we're going to get back to where we were in. I mean, I remember the days. Go back to 2013, 2014, 2015, where all farmers wanted was, we need 430. We need 430. I mean, I lived through that. We may go back there again. We're like, okay, we're not worried about. It would be nice to have $5 corn again, but we have to make sure that this pencils out at all. And so that's what I'd be concerned about. So will farmers plant less acres? Possibly, but we'll have to wait and see.
Well, there's two topics that we're going to cover here at the end. Let's do this first on maybe taking some land out of production. Let's go Scott in Wisconsin if we could. If grain is not paying the bills, why don't more farmers just go back to grazing cattle on their marginal land and leave it fallow?
Okay, questions like that, they really make my antenna go up, and it makes me worry, because if one gentleman is thinking that means a lot of other people are thinking that too. And what does that tell me? It tells me that we're probably near a low for wheat, and we could be near the high in cattle, because if you're willing to make that big of a shift, say, you know what, I'm out of the row crop business, I'm now a rancher, be careful. That's what I would say, because if you're making that decision, other people are too. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's a free country. You can do whatever you want to do, but you may be getting out, getting away from we might just be about to turn. So I'd say if you can hold on for another 3, 4, 5 months, go ahead. Now, if it works out where your operation can do it, absolutely go to it. But be careful. If you're going out and you're buying very expensive mama cows or baby cows right now to start your herd, what you don't want to do, you want to be the person that bought the top, with feeder cattle here at 360, 370, and you want to be 6 months from now, something happens and we're back down to, sub $3. So be careful.
It's the story of the game.
Yeah.
Is to be careful.
But if you're going to make a drastic switch like that, where you better talk it over with your lender, talk it over with your spouse. But yeah, if the math works, do it.
But we're not talking massive changes. I mean, massive changes, yes, I get.
Yeah.
There could be some graduals to get into that, but probably not enough that shows up on a paper, though.
I don't think so. And then again, I've been working with farmers now for 15, 16 years, but I've been trading beans and everything for over 30 years. Everybody, sooner or later, they may say, well, we're not going to plant this much. It always gets planted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like in the spring, it always
Just
gets
like in the
planted.
spring, right?
Okay, last thing, two things kind of tied together here. Diesel and fertilizer. Inputs is still a story that we're hitting. Inflationary reasons. What do you see for diesel?
Crude oil hit a 3-month low today. I think if crude oil drops below 60, it wasn't that long ago, we were down at $55 back in April of last year, 3-year lows. That's only going to be positive for diesel. With the guys that I work with, I think if you can get anything bought around the 190 level, if diesel happens to dip back there, take advantage of it. That would be sometimes where I'd be like, this is where I want to fill the tanks. It may be fleeting. The way these things change, the market moves quickly. But I would probably say if I'm waiting, I'd wait a little bit longer, especially if crude oil gets below that 60 level, $55 level. And that eventually should work through. You talk about inputs with fertilizer. There are guys out there that are much more knowledgeable about fertilizer than I am. There's whole newsletters about just fertilizer. I think that marginal farmers next year are going to be making the decision, all right, how much am I actually going to do? And it's going to be their agronomist that's going to tell them, look, you can probably cut back to X, but don't cut back to this. So that's, I think in the margins, absolutely, positively, guys are going to do that, because it comes down to a math problem. And, you don't want to lock in a loss from the day one. So I think that's going to be something that's going to have to turn. Now, the people that sell fertilizer, they're going to realize, you know what, a lot of these farmers are going to be like, no, maybe not. So hopefully the market will readjust for itself. I'm hopeful that happens.
So we're sitting on our hands for fertilizer, diesel for a little
Diesel
bit.
fuel, yeah.
We're sitting on our hands for wheat, maybe selling some corn, and maybe selling some beans right now.
Oh, yeah.
Did I get the summary right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, soybeans are probably the most attractive thing to sell. Corn, I don't think I really want to get aggressively selling right now. I'd rather sit and wait, but I'd have a defensive floor, 420, 410, and you don't have to pay a ton for those right now. And if you're going to store it, make sure you do the math there, because you don't want to store it and watch corn continue to drift lower. That's what I would say. I mean, store it and ignore it, great. Keep it put under it.
We'll keep you coming back if you keep saying stuff like that, Chris. Thank you.
Okay.
Good to see you again.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, by the way, for coming for our little party, too. Good to see you then.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you.
All right. Chris Robinson, everyone. And I do want to say we've had quite a view, and we've had quite a first year of our Market Insider newsletter. Join us. Find out what this is all about. You know, hopefully we've worked out all those bugs. We'll tell some stories about Chris maybe in there, and we'll begin year 2 Monday morning. Sign up at markettomarket.org. Next week, we are going to double the livestock analysis in commodity markets with Ross Baldwin and Jeff French. Thank you so much for joining us, and have yourselves a great week.